Yo, yeah, so he was pound for pound. Floyd was pound for pound. You or Floyd, who would have done that? Who would have won that?
No.
Man, me versus anybody. I'm gonna always say me.
Okay.
Come on now.
You know, I found myself in the past, you know, the younger Floyd Mayweather, you know, going back and forth on the internet with different people. But I'm in a better place in my life right now. You know, I couldn't actually be in a better place. So the old Floyd Mayweather, when I used to go back and forth with people on social media, I don't do that.
Terence Crawford couldn't have an error to himself. And if you put Terence Crawford against any opponent on Floyd's resume, who do you have favorite? Terence Crawford or one of Floyd's opponents?
Why does Ryan keep mentioning another?
No, I'm asking the question first. Do we got Terence Bud Crawford beating everybody on Floyd's resume? No doubt.
Floyd Mayweather is back in the spotlight, and this time, it's because of some comments he made about Terence Crawford. In a recent interview, Mayweather questioned Crawford's intentions, suggesting that Crawford might only be after a big payday by targeting Canelo Alvarez. This sparked a lot of controversy, and Crawford quickly responded, making it clear that while Mayweather is a legend, he's missing the bigger picture. Mayweather also talked about his own growth, saying he's in a much better place in life now and doesn't feel the need to get into online arguments like he used to. He went on to ask if Crawford would be favored in a fight against anyone from Mayweather's list of past opponents, but the real buzz came from his comments about Crawford's motivations and his recent challenges. The debate between these two is heating up, and it's clear Crawford isn't backing down from defending himself.
Like I've been saying for years, you put me in the ring with all the great fighters around my weight class, past, present, future. I'm gonna hold my own against all of them.
Terence Crawford responded to Floyd Mayweather's comments, saying that as one of the greatest fighters, he thought Mayweather would understand why a fighter like him wants to face Canelo. Crawford is tired of the constant assumption that he's only after a payday. For Crawford, this fight isn't about the money, it's about proving he's the best fighter of his era, not just another person chasing a big paycheck. That he's been saying for months now that his desire to fight Canelo is all about testing his skills against the best. Crawford believes Mayweather, being a legend, should understand that better than anyone. For him, it's all about legacy.
You know, when these guys, you know, certain fighters, when they want to fight, our job is to line it up. And us fighters, we're warriors. We always want to fight the best.
Crawford feels that facing Canelo would be the ultimate test, one that could define his career and cement his legacy in boxing history. The idea that he's chasing Canelo purely for money frustrates him. He expected Mayweather, someone who built his career by taking on the biggest challenges, to understand this motivation. Instead, Mayweather seems to be suggesting that Crawford is just after a payday, which doesn't sit well with the welterweight champion. Crawford went even further, telling Mayweather that if it weren't Canelo at the top, but Mayweather himself, he'd still be coming for him with the same confidence in a victory. It's a bold statement, but it shows just how determined Crawford is and where his mindset truly lies.
Wow, you know, the question is Floyd gonna come out of retirement
and fight
Crawford?
Yeah, he said, now break it down, Calvin. Floyd against Crawford.
That's a good one, you know what I'm saying? Because you got the old GOAT great, you know what I'm saying, against the new GOAT great.
TDE versus the Pound King.
Yeah, so that's a good one. You know, that one, the pay-per-view would be stupid.
I'm all for it. Make it happen.
Yeah, the pay-per-view would be stupid.
Crawford made it clear that he's ready to beat anyone in his path, whether it's Canelo or anyone else. In fact, he even said that if Mayweather came to him asking for a fight, he'd still beat the old out of him because his goal is to prove he's the best. That bold statement has already sparked a lot of debate among fans. The idea of Crawford beating Mayweather is one of the most controversial things he's ever said. Fans are now questioning if Crawford, in his prime, could really take down a prime Mayweather. Comparisons between the two are being thrown around, but the big question is, could Crawford really outperform a legend like Mayweather?
This guy, in my opinion, could have fought in any era, and on any given night could have beaten any welterweight in the history of the sport. Could have beaten any welterweight in history of sport, and I'm going to go one further. Prime for prime, at 147, Terence Crawford beats Floyd Mayweather. Hands down. Hands down. Hands down.
Mayweather, of course, wasn't going to let Crawford's comments slide. In his interview, he laid out what he thinks Crawford should do if he truly wants a shot at Canelo. According to Mayweather, Crawford should first face David Benavidez, and if that doesn't happen, he should go after Jaron "Boots" Ennis, the rising welterweight star. Mayweather's point is simple: if everyone is chasing the same fighter but can't get that fight, then they should face each other instead. He believes Crawford needs to prove himself in higher weight classes before demanding a shot at Canelo. But not everyone agrees with Mayweather's perspective on this.
Terence Crawford is one of the smartest fighters I've seen. Very smart. Always in shape, you know. And he can figure out anybody. And it's only difference if it's 2 weight classes or not. If you have it here, and you have the skills to match it, that's tough to do, no matter who you are.
Mayweather also pointed out that Crawford hasn't been very active in recent years. Over the last 4 years, Crawford has fought only once per year. While he dominated Errol Spence Jr., he's still been struggling to secure other major fights. Mayweather seems to suggest that Crawford's lack of activity could be why he's so eager to chase a fight with Canelo. It's the biggest matchup he can land right now. But Crawford knows his own worth. He's already established himself as one of the greats in the sport and doesn't feel he needs to prove anything to anyone.
The greats like Mayweather, Leonard, Hagler, Duran, Hearns.
My name already up there. You know? It's just a matter of going on.
Instead of waiting around for Canelo, Mayweather is advising Crawford to take on someone like David Benavidez, who's also chasing a fight with the Mexican superstar. Mayweather explained, if you want to go to 168 and fight Canelo, Benavidez wants that fight too. If they can't make it, they can fight each other, Benavidez and Crawford. However, Crawford doesn't see it that way. He's not just looking for any big fight, he's after the biggest one in his eyes. To him, taking a detour to fight Benavidez or Jaron "Boots" Ennis doesn't make sense when he's already one of the top names in boxing. He's not afraid to speak his mind about Mayweather's advice either. In fact, even some of Mayweather's own camp believe Crawford has the potential to be even better.
I'm talking about to be not considered great. He's already a great fighter, but to be considered probably the best. I mean, he's in a position to be considered probably, better than Floyd. He's in that position.
Better than Floyd?
I mean, he's in that position.
Oh, okay.
I mean, because Floyd's 50 and all, he's what, 40?
Crawford didn't hold back in firing back at Mayweather. He pointed out the irony, saying, "This is the same Floyd Mayweather who fought Andre Berto in his last fight, right? The same guy who carefully picked his opponents to reach 50-0. And now he wants to tell me who I should fight? Man, miss me with that." Crawford sees it as hypocrisy, calling out Mayweather for being known as the money man, who was all about securing big paydays. Crawford argues that Mayweather carefully selected his opponents in the later part of his career, so he has no business telling him who to fight. He also mentioned how Mayweather fought Canelo when Canelo was young and inexperienced. Crawford believes he's doing what Floyd did, trying to secure the biggest fight possible. But now, Mayweather is acting like that's a problem.
Y'all sitting up here, y'all praising this dude was nothing. I was almost 40 years old when I cooked this dude. Easy.
Mayweather is always keen to defend his legacy, and he's pushing back against critics who say he fought a young Canelo at a catchweight to weaken him. In a recent interview, he set the record straight, clarifying that it was actually Canelo's team who chose the catchweight, not him. "A lot of people said it was at a catchweight, but I didn't choose the catchweight, Canelo did," Mayweather explained. He also highlighted how the current boxing scene is filled with fighters who seem unsure if they're chasing legacy, money, or both. Mayweather believes this uncertainty is a major factor in the way fighters approach their careers today.
His own catchweight for years. Canelo fought a smaller Mayweather. Canelo fought a smaller Amir Khan, but Amir Khan.
Yeah, he did at 155.
Amir Khan. He fought Jamel Charlo, and I'm pretty sure he didn't make as much money with all those guys except Mayweather, even Berlanga right now, that he will with me.
Mayweather also took the chance to criticize the current state of boxing, saying there are too many champions and too many belts. To him, the sport needs to return to the old-school way, where the best fighters simply fought each other without all the politics. We have to go back to the old school, and we are getting back to that. A lot of good fighters are fighting each other, and a lot of great fighters are fighting each other. But we need to cut out all these belts. There are too many champions, Mayweather said, making it clear that he's not a fan of how the sport is being run today.
What's so impressive about him?
His experience, he's so smart. He have everything in a fighter, a complete fighter. He don't have power in the punches, but when you that kind of fighter, you don't need it.
Do you think that was the toughest fight you faced?
No.
What do you think?
I think it's tough fights and difficult fights.
This isn't the first time Crawford and Mayweather have clashed. Even before Leonard Ellerbe was fired, Crawford had already made it clear that he wasn't impressed with how Mayweather Promotions was handling its fighters. He wasn't the only one, either. Gervonta "Tank" Davis, Mayweather's biggest star, had been voicing similar frustrations. Crawford had questioned Mayweather's transition from fighter to promoter, pointing out that even though Mayweather made hundreds of millions in the sport, he wasn't doing enough to support the new generation of boxers. For Crawford, this wasn't just about money, it was about how the business side of boxing was preventing young fighters from reaching their full potential.
You know, and I don't see him trying to give the game to the young fighters because he's a promoter now. I can't give everybody the game if I'm one of them now. It's a business at the end of the day. So if they made all this money on our backs as fighters and now I'm a promoter, I'm going to do the same thing that they once was doing and just say it's just the game of the business.
Floyd broke the bank, he made his money, he did his thing, Crawford said. But I don't see him out here really helping these fighters the way he should. It's like once he got to the top, he just wants to stay there alone. That statement immediately caused a stir. Mayweather had built his legacy on being the smartest businessman in boxing, but Crawford made it seem like Floyd was more focused on protecting his own status than helping the next generation of fighters by giving them opportunities.
Right. So they pay the fighters. They don't have to wait for, that was the big problem in the past, is that these boxing promoters would come in and they wouldn't make as much money as they thought they were going to do, so they would stiff the fighters and not pay the guys. And that's why these regulations are in place in these different states.
Leonard Ellerbe, who had been running Mayweather Promotions, fired back with a short but firm response, "Totally disagree." But his words weren't enough to end the conversation. Crawford had already brought up a point that many had been thinking for a long time. Was Mayweather Promotions really helping fighters, or was it just another way for Floyd to maintain control of the sport?
But to answer your question, it's black people that got me in the situation. People that look just like me. They say they come from the hood. That's starving me on purpose. Black. So it's not about supporting black in public. It's about being truthful. It's about
Tank Davis had already been fighting his own battle with Mayweather Promotions, openly expressing his dissatisfaction with how his career was being managed. He even took shots at Mayweather, hinting that his success was being used to benefit Floyd more than himself. Crawford made sure to highlight this, saying, "Look at how Tank had to leave. That boy had to fight his way out just to get some freedom. And that's the same dude who was making y'all millions." However, not every fighter signed with Floyd seems to have the same experience, with some feeling more supported than others in the promotion.
I think being signed to Floyd, it was a great experience because, you know, that's like somebody I looked up to from a young kid. And I was kind of like, I always felt like I had the same talent he had, but I just always wanted to prove myself to him. I really signed him to get next to him and like get knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wasn't about the money, but obviously when I first was a young kid, he put some money in front of me, and I thought that was a lot of money, and I thought that I was going to get moved like Gervonta was, obviously. Yeah. So when we was in a contract, I would see, you know, guys like Gervonta.
It's just talk. Davis eventually walked away from Mayweather Promotions, and instead of fighting to keep him, Mayweather acted like it was no big deal. That only fueled the idea that Mayweather wasn't truly invested in his fighters, that once they started to grow bigger, he didn't want to be in their shadow. Crawford took it even further, calling out the lack of new stars coming from Mayweather Promotions. Even with new talent like Carmel Moughton, Floyd always seemed to find a way to turn the conversation back to himself.
You know, I didn't have to have 70 fights, 150 fights, 300 fights. Did I not beat the most world champions?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And in the least amount of fights?
Yes, you did.
Who got the highest gate?
Floyd Mayweather.
Who made the most money?
You did.
Who was the most accurate fighter of all time?
You were.
So it's basically saying that...
The greatest of all time.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, it's right there in front of us, Crawford had said. Why hasn't Mayweather Promotions built another Tank? Why don't they have another big name out here headlining pay-per-views? 'Cause it ain't about building the next champ, it's about keeping Floyd's name the biggest in the room. It's a harsh take, but one that made sense to many. Other promotional companies like Top Rank and PBC have continued to produce new champions, while Mayweather Promotions has started to fade. fighters have either left or avoided signing with them in the first place. Crawford was essentially saying what a lot of people had already been thinking. Mayweather wasn't trying to build a new legacy with his fighters, he was just trying to keep himself at the top. Ellerby tried to defend Mayweather, insisting that Mayweather Promotions had done plenty for fighters, but looking at the current state of things, it's clear where that approach has left him.
He's not gonna hurt me, you know what I mean? So it's good to be with him than be cool with him, because he can do some crazy stuff. He'll put you in bad situations.
As much as Crawford has been critical of Floyd, it doesn't mean that Floyd doesn't see him as a great fighter. Mayweather has never been shy about sharing his opinions on the sport, and when it comes to who the best fighter in the world is right now, he's not hesitating. While many are debating between fighters like Alexander Usyk, Naoya Inoue, and Terence Crawford, Mayweather has already made his choice. Crawford is the best pound-for-pound fighter in boxing. For a man who once dominated the sport himself, that statement carries serious weight. Mayweather has seen it all, from fighting legends to building a promotional empire, and he doesn't throw around compliments lightly. So when he said, "I think Terence Crawford right now in the sport of boxing is the pound-for-pound best fighter," it sent shockwaves through the boxing world. Coming from Mayweather, a man who rarely acknowledges anyone as his equal, this was as close as it gets to giving Crawford the ultimate crown.
I think Terence Crawford right now in the sport of boxing is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the sport of boxing right now. It's good to see him in this position, in the position that he's in. I think he has a beautiful family. I think he has a beautiful wife, a beautiful queen, a black queen.
But here's where things get even more interesting. Crawford is now waiting for a fight against Canelo Alvarez, the same man Mayweather defeated over a decade ago. If Crawford pulls it off, he won't just be the best in the sport right now, he'll be knocking on the door of Mayweather's own legacy. Mayweather has always been quick to remind people that he fought and dominated Canelo when the Mexican star was younger. But if Crawford beats Canelo in 2025, it will put him in a position that Mayweather never had to face, proving himself at such a high weight. This could be a defining moment in Crawford's career, one that adds even more fuel to the already intense rivalry between him and Mayweather.
The only thing I see that I favor Canelo is that is his weight, and that he's more bigger. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing. But as far as skill set wise, IQ, I feel like Crawford can match anybody and probably do way better. You know what I'm saying? But Crawford is a legend, bro.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can't.
And that's where the controversy kicks in. Mayweather has said he respects Crawford's greatness, but deep down, does he really want to see Crawford succeed at this level? If Crawford beats Canelo convincingly, people will start asking a dangerous question: who did it better, Mayweather or Crawford? For someone as prideful as Floyd, that's a conversation he probably doesn't want floating around. But the truth is, it's already started. Fans, analysts, and even other fighters are beginning to compare the two, and that's a tough position for Mayweather to be in, especially considering how much he's built his legacy around being the best.
I swear to God. I swear to God, people say that. He said, how can Crawford not top Mayweather if he stops Canelo? That's just Canelo. My brother is just Canelo. But what about that other Hall of Fame legend, Juan Manuel Marquez? What about the other Hall of Fame legend, Miguel Cotto and Manny Pacquiao and Oscar?
Mayweather's praise of Crawford is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it seems like he's giving Crawford his flowers, acknowledging his greatness. But on the other hand, it feels like a way for Floyd to stay relevant in the conversation. He wants to be the one crowning Crawford as the best because that means he still controls the narrative. If Crawford wins big, Mayweather can say, "I told you he was the best," as if his endorsement made it official. But if Crawford loses, Mayweather will be the first to say, "I warned y'all, moving up in weight isn't easy." Either way, Floyd wins the debate, positioning himself as both the wise predictor and the experienced legend who knew the risks.
With Crawford going up, I believe he can put a beating on anybody 154, 160.
But not 68.
Nah, Benavidez is...
Oh, Canelo. Yeah.
Oh, Canelo. I think he's a smart fighter. He doesn't rely on his power. Crawford ain't a fighter who just relies on his power.
Meanwhile, Crawford is brushing off the doubters, just like he always has. He's spent his entire career proving people wrong, and this is just another chapter in his story. "I've been doubted my whole career," Crawford said. "They never thought I would be in this place that I am now. It's the same script, different opponent. They said he was too small for Jeff Horn, he beat him. Too small for Sean Porter, he stopped him. Errol Spence was supposed to be too big and strong. Crawford made him look like an amateur. Now, Canelo is the new mountain to climb, and the doubters are back in full force. But Crawford isn't fazed. He's been here before, and he's ready to prove them wrong again.
Decision or stoppage if they fight in May, Canelo and Crawford.
Decision or...
And why does Canelo beat him, before you get out of here?
Listen, we can have the skills and everything, but jumping that much like that, jumping like that much, getting hit, I don't think Crawford's ever fought a fighter that's hit him directly, just straight, constantly in the arms. And it's not because they can't, they don't think that way.
Appreciate it, Jim. Gotta clear it out, guys.
Remember, this man's been pro since what, 14?
Mm-hmm. 15.
Yeah. Doesn't make a big difference.
But there's another layer to this. Mayweather himself was once in the same position. Back when he fought Oscar de la Hoya, people doubted him too. Later, when he faced Canelo, many thought he was too old to keep up, but he proved them wrong, just like Crawford is doing now. So when Mayweather calls Crawford the best fighter today, is he seeing a reflection of himself? Is this his way of acknowledging that Crawford is carrying the torch he once held, or is it just Floyd playing his usual mind games, knowing that his words will keep him in the headlines no matter what happens? Crawford's journey to pound-for-pound supremacy isn't over yet. But if he beats Canelo, the debate will be settled, and that could be the moment that finally places him in a conversation no one can ignore.
The others say like, no, that's 2 more weight classes. Like once he gets touched by Canelo, it's going to be different.
I am concerned about him absorbing a Canelo punch, especially through the course of 12 rounds. We do know this about Canelo. He's going to slow down, so I think if any...
Mayweather might have already named Crawford the best, but if Crawford wins in dominant fashion, he won't need Floyd's validation. He'll be standing on his own, in a league of his own. For someone as competitive as Mayweather, watching Crawford rise to that level might not be as enjoyable as he's making it seem. But do you really think Crawford can defeat Canelo? And do you think Crawford should have tested himself against a bigger fighter before stepping into the ring with Canelo? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to subscribe for more updates.